Hello again, this is Sean Higgins, and I'm going to be doing another book series review. I talked about different books that I liked in my childhood, especially mystery stories that were not the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew. Different mystery series that I liked. I actually wasn't a fan of the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew. But one thing I was a fan of was called Trixie Belden. There were a series of books about a girl named Trixie Belden. She was a bit younger than Nancy Drew, and she had adventures with her friends, and she's also solved mysteries. All of the adventures involved mysteries, especially the latter ones after the first six books. Although some of them had mysteries as well. You see, the first six books were written by a woman named Julie Campbell. And then after that, she decided to end the series. She started writing them in 1948, so quite some time ago. But they did so well that they continued publishing them under the pseudonym of Catherine Kenny, I'm sorry. And those were written by an assortment of different writers. And the last book was written in 1986. So there were 39 books in total. They weren't written even once a year. Basically, they would write a bunch of them and then stop for a while and write a bunch more and stop for a while. And it culminated in 1986 when they wrote the last book. There are several different editions of the series, but the three that I'm going to concern myself with are the paperback edition from the late 70s. Those are the ones I read the most. I think I had more of them than anything else as a child. Then there were what they called the deluxe editions. They were printed in the mid 60s, so they only printed the first 16 books in this edition. But this edition has all new artwork, which is, dare I say it, deluxe. The artwork's much better. The book itself just feels like it's a better quality, and it's just a better book. Now, also, they had an edition with original illustrations. I do have some of those, but I don't have the whole series of those. So what I'm showing now is a 2003 reprint edition. This was the very last edition as of 2022 that was printed, and they only did, I think, the first 16 books of the series in this edition as well. Now, these have the old illustrations from the original books. The deluxe editions, as I mentioned, have better illustrations. Let's just compare one of them for now, just so you have an idea of what I mean. So this illustration here shows Trixie and her mother. And again, it was originally written in 1948. And this edition in the mid 60s, it depicts a very similar scene of Trixie and her mother again. But I like the artwork. It's colored. It looks more detailed, and I just like it better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over each book by book. That's what I'm thinking, at least right now. I want to see how much interest there is in this, but I think I'd like to go over them by book. I'll describe what happens in each book and show some illustrations from each book. I'm going to scan them so I can put them into the video seamlessly without showing a couple pages. That way you can see them more clearly. You can see them more clearly. But either way, the series is about, like I said, a girl named Trixie. She is 13 at the beginning of the series, and she's kind of bored because she has a babysit her little 5 or 6 year old brother. She has two older brothers, but they're away as camp counselors over the summer, and she's kind of bored. And there is a rich family that moves next door, which has a teenage girl her age named Honey, or her real name is Madeline, and everyone calls her Honey. She is a little bit timid at the beginning, but of course, as she gets to know Trixie, who's kind of a tomboy, she becomes more rough and tumble too, which her parents like. They don't like her being very sickly and timid, so they enjoy Trixie's influence. As the series goes on, Trixie's two brothers return. Their names are Mart. Mart is about a year older than Trixie, and they kind of fight a little bit as siblings do. And then an older brother named Brian, who's 17. That age kind of changes as the series goes on. Also, there is an orphan boy who is, well, there's spoiler alerts here. He's eventually adopted by Honey's family. His name is Jim. He's kind of a puppy dog kind of crush, love interest for Trixie. Then also there, like as I mentioned, Trixie's friend Honey's family is very rich. They have horses, which actually the horses have a good place in the entire series. All of the kids like riding the horses, and there's a groom named Reagan. And he has a nephew who joins later, whose name is Dan Mangan. He was from a kind of a rough part of New York City. They live in a rural area, maybe an hour away from New York City, and he's from a rough part of New York City, but he he has a good heart, and he joins their group, and also a good friend of Trixie's that she knew as a child, they kind of broke apart later, but then they get back together. Her name is Diana, and she's also from a wealthy family. So anyway, it's a very good series, and like I said, it's not just an episodic tale of their adventures. They actually do solve mysteries. If there's one thing that I think is a common thing that happens in the series, which I think kind of grates after a while, especially I can understand Trixie's frustration with this, because she'll encounter a mystery, and the rest of the group, except Honey, but the rest of the group don't believe her. Jim kind of does, because Jim has a crush on her, so Jim will go along with it, but her brothers especially, they don't believe that there's a real mystery. A lot of times that Diana feels the same way, and they don't believe it until something happens which has incontrovertible proof that what Trixie's saying is true and she's not just imagining it. Now again, I understand if that happened once or twice, that's a completely fair reaction, but Trixie runs into a mystery all the time and they never believe it. After a while it gets old, it's like, why aren't you believing this? She runs into a mystery all the time. But anyway, as I mentioned, the books are written in the late 40s to the mid-80s. The ones that I liked the most probably were the ones from the 70s and 80s, because the times are more contemporary to my childhood. But either way, the old ones are good too. But with them being that old, there's no there's no violence in it. There's definitely no bad language or sex. Even the scary parts, it does get scary every so often, because sometimes especially Trixie and Honey, they get kidnapped by the bad guys and things of that nature. Especially nowadays, when you think about children really being kidnapped, that is scary. But it's not too scary. The books are for children, so nothing really egregious happens. And also, again, the mysteries are pretty good. I mean, even though they're written for children, you have to think about it to figure out what's going on and who's the actual culprit. It isn't so obvious that it becomes boring after a while. So, like I said, I really enjoyed the series. I look forward to discussing some of the books, if not all of them. And again, if you have any comments or anything, please put them down below. I'd really like to hear your thoughts, especially if you read the Trixie Belden books as well. Okay, thank you for watching, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.